Hey folks, welcome back to Straight Talk Whiskey for episode number 12. Now, before we get started, don't adjust your screens or switch to another video, because what you're seeing is actually our first French whiskey. It's the first French whiskey that I've ever tasted, and I thought it would be interesting for our, this is our segment on world whiskeys, which normally you'd think of encompassing something like a Canadian whiskey or Japanese whiskey. But as I was perusing the shelves of my local liquor store, I came upon Bastille, 1789, handcrafted rare whiskey. So it's not from 1789, that is to celebrate the French Revolution, but nonetheless, that's what's on here to give us our distinct edition of this bottle. So I was kind of taken aback when I saw it. I had two other bottles in my hand. I almost dropped to the floor when I saw it. So, and also the price. The price, I'm not sure about where you live. Of course, it's all over the place. If you do have it in your local liquor store, make sure you comment and just kind of tell us what the price is in your area, because I'm just curious, because this was pretty cheap, which I thought it would have been much higher. But, of course, I wasn't I know nothing about French whiskey, so what was I to go on? I couldn't tell you more than what I'm actually looking at in the bottle. So I went looking around a little bit. There's not that many reviews on YouTube. There are some. Most of them I found, I'll just be blunt, extremely negative. Now, I don't do whiskey reviews to just be negative and bash the whiskey. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't help anyone out, because there's somebody out there who actually loves this stuff, and probably the one who makes it, loves it. It's a, it's a real small distillery. I know that much. I don't know. It says handcrafted, and from what I've seen, I do believe that. It seems like they are pretty meticulous about the ingredients they use and where they source the wood, which we'll get into later. But so I do think, we just got off the last episode of talking about, terminology on bottle labels and kind of what that means and everything. But so back to my point, just a lot of reviewers out there just knocking this, saying it tastes terrible, tastes like some liqueur or something like that. So we're going to get past that and do like we do every other review on Straight Talk Whiskey, which is just to taste it, tell you the notes, tell you a little bit about it, and let you be a little more informed for when you do pass it in the liquor store and, are thinking about purchasing it, or if you're out somewhere like a bar or something like that, maybe a friend will pick it up along the way and have a drink. So that you're a little bit more informed about it, and it just sparks conversation, which is kind of what we're all doing here, talking about whiskey. There's a lot of whiskeys out there, but as a whole, it's a pretty small, community. And we don't want to be snobbish. That's the worst thing that kills me. It's people that specify in like certain areas, like, oh, this is the best whiskey ever. I don't care what you say, but we could get into that. Those kind of people. But we're not here. We're just, open-minded about tasting things. So that's what we're going to get. So I did a little research because I didn't see on the bottle how old it is, but from what I've seen, it's a 5 to 7 year maturation, which seems about right. I did take a little taste of this earlier, just so that I kind of had an idea of what we were working with. And Bastille is very proud of the fact, and they put it on the label in this little tag here, which I probably take off, but that the Beverage Testing Institute, not Beverage Tasting Institute, but Beverage Testing Institute, gave it 94 points, exceptional. It's all over their website. They even made like this little mini film that kind of has that in it, which, so they're proud of it and good for them. If I was just starting a distillery and trying to make the best product I can, I'd probably be pretty happy about it too. I'm pretty proud of the work. So first, actually let's talk about what's on the bottle, because some of it is interesting. We talk about handcrafted. Yes, it seems like it is probably handcrafted. Not a lot of people, working there. It's not mass produced. I think it's a combination, really, of kind of these old traditional techniques and, obviously the computerized automation, that type of thing, that are just in everyday life. So we can't be entirely shocked that that's not, partially an influence here, or could be. Rare whiskey, sure. Handmade and finished in French, Le Maison Oak Cask. I believe I pronounced that right. But what I found out about that specific French oak is that it's very kind of grainy and slightly porous in the sense that you get more of an interaction with the spirit and the wood. So that'll be interesting to review. Of course, we said 1789, celebrating the French Revolution. The bottle, as you can see, is really interesting, kind of this old-fashioned, like, really rectangular style around the corners, that sort of thing. And it's a blended whiskey, mash bill consisting of wheat and malted barley, so there's that. And also, it is bottled at 40% ABV. So, I gotta be honest, when I first went to taste this, I was slightly wary that, 40%, sometimes you don't get the most stunning, flavors. And not to say that it's not good, but kind of it's you got a large suitcase with not a lot in it, that sort of thing, just to generalize. Of course, that's not always the case. I don't want to make real generalizations about a lot of things. But the one interesting thing I found about this is, if you kind of see, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but sort of an orangish tint to the color, which is very strange because I haven't really seen much of that before. But let's go in for the nose. Now, when I first nosed this, you probably saw just the closing your eyes, trying to shut out everything, because, it's French whiskey, which I had never tasted, never even heard of. My sort of ignorance didn't know that they had, or were experimenting making whiskey. I knew, they had gin and certainly other spirits and wines that they were making, but I didn't know whiskey was one of them. So I just try to, close my eyes and just focus in on the scents, because what you get is a really light fruitiness that's, it's well balanced. It's not like the certain fruits that we picked up in other whiskeys, especially ones that we've reviewed, like the Irish whiskeys tend to lean towards the more baked fruits, that sort of thing, with a little zest kick in there from copper pot stills. But what you get here is more of like these exotic fruits, like, I'm going to go back in just so I can really pinpoint it. Definitely orange. I mean, that was the first thing that we saw in the color, was sort of the orange, but in the same, obviously you can't tell the sense by the color. But definitely an orange quality to it, not orange peel, not orange zest, not any of that, but what I get is just the actual, like, nice, ripe, juicy orange. But also there's this interesting, almost, like, confectionery flavor going on there. And I'm guessing it's part of the cask that they're matured in, because it's not just the Le Maison oak cask, but there's also some other casks that you can probably look up if you went online to see. I really had to dig for it. There's some reviews that appear to have more information than I found on, Bastille's own site, so I didn't want to go out and throw certain information out that I wasn't entirely sure was true. But the only thing I did kind of give out was the 5 to 7 years of maturation. That seems probably right. It doesn't taste really young, and as we've talked about before, looking at the legs, it does have a nice little slow crawl to it, so there's definitely some older stuff. in there, and it's picked up a lot of the cask influence, which leads me to believe that it has been aged for a longer period of time. And I couldn't find any like French regulations on whiskey, so I'll have to do a little more digging on that about, if they have minimum requirements for aging and that sort of thing. But so that'll be interesting. If I can find that, I'll definitely share that with you. Now also, because this is usually I would, just go on to the taste, but there's so much here. This kind of confectionery aromas that I was talking about, sort of like a cake, baked cake, with some spices in it. But there's also sort of like a bubblegum type of flavor going on there in the aroma. So let's go in for a taste. Now, the disturbing thing to me has nothing to do with what I taste, and at the same time has everything to do with it, because what I taste is this sort of exotic flavors balanced with definitely this malt and barley characteristic that's going on in there. But I can't understand why, and this is going back to the beginning and I'm trying to stay away from it, but that a reviewer would go on and just completely knock something like this, because it is exceptional. I'm actually pleasantly surprised. I wasn't sure, obviously I had no preconceptions of French whiskey, but I knew the price seemed fairly low, and it's probably because it's not in huge demand, because people don't know about it. Clearly I didn't. And judging by the show of reviews that popped up on YouTube, not too many other people know about it, but there's some. So word is getting around. It could be big in the European countries. I'm not sure, because I believe it's fairly recently that it's been imported to the United States here. So, but I'm getting the same kind of dynamic flavor profiles that I got in the nose. It's this really, really interesting, kind of like these confectionery, the more bready notes. There's a little spice in there, but it doesn't stay around for long. It's sort of resemblant to certain scotches that I've tasted before, just in kind of the overall elegance and certain airiness. I'm not talking about like the heavier peated scotches, but some of the more lighter Scotch whiskies. It's got a lot of, and we tend to pair a lot of the flavors that we have with certain experiences that we've had in the past, and it's almost like being out in a large field, maybe a big park where the city workers have just freshly cut the grass, and you get that just nice smell, almost like early fall. I get a lot of kind of flashbacks to like school starting in like middle school and high school, that sort of thing, and just being out and smelling all the aromas in the air. And that's a large part of whiskey tasting, is associating scents and flavors and aromas that you pick up on with experiences that you've had in the past. And it's really rich if you can taste whiskey with other people, because then you sort of get this collection of stories and different things, and it's really if you can control yourself to drink in moderation, which of course we try to do, because we don't want our senses dulled and we're not really tasting it at any point, and you might as well not be drinking something like this, that you can really taste all the different various components, and you can tell the like it says, handcrafted, and I'm led to believe it, because it's very well balanced. Yeah, so let's go in for another one last taste. No, I say last taste, but there's probably going to be more. So, a little lie there. But it's very nice and smooth, and I was sort of just questioning, after I tasted this for the first time, Bastille's site, if you were to go on there, it talks a lot about being able to mix this for certain cocktails and other drinks. Like, it's almost like it's promoting it for that certain purpose, but I could definitely see myself just relaxing and sipping on this because it's lovely. It's almost, I attribute it almost in the way that you would like sherry or port or something like a dessert wine type of thing, Madeira wine. You know, just a nice after, you know, a nice filling dinner, something like that. You know, just relaxing, having a nice little dessert wine with these. It'd be like eating a pastry or like something like that from a bakery in, you know, whiskey form. So let's talk about the finish, and to do that I'll have to go back on my word about that being the last taste and go in for one more. Now, on the finish, there's these light, and this is going back to also the taste, which I didn't mention, but sort of like mango. The orange is there, this lemony flavor, a tad bit of honey. There's no real, I don't smell or taste any like wood smoke from like a bourbon cask, but it's, you know, very possible that it is matured in that, but maybe not picking up so much of the notes because of the French oak, which we talked about, that cask influence being a lot greater. It's an exceptional source of wood, one of the highest qualities and probably most expensive there is around, especially in Europe. But the finish is just a nice, it's pleasant, you know, it's like after you've caught up with a friend for a long period of time, after a long period of time of being away, really getting to catch up, you know, and having a nice feeling when, you know, you part ways again, feeling like you've reconnected and kind of things have balanced out and everything's all right. That's, you know, I know that's you know, taken off in another direction there, but it's just nice. It's pleasant. It's it doesn't feel abrupt. There's still a little lingering there. It's not overly so. You know, maybe if this is one of the times when, you know, I say if they did bump it up more, I wonder what could be. You know, even just bumping it up a few percentage points, maybe 43 or something like that. I'm just wondering how it would taste, because this is certainly exceptional as it is. You know, the Beverage Tasting Institute said it was exceptional, and now I am, so maybe they can put that on their site. I'm just kidding. We have fun here. So anyway, let's wrap things up. Let's get a score going. So I'm going to give it a straight talk whiskey score of 89 out of 100. Now I've done a little reorientation with my tasting table here at the studio, so hopefully this is still in view. If not, it's an 89 out of 100. So I mentioned on Facebook today, which will be Saturday, because I will upload this tomorrow on Sunday. I'm thinking of doing a mini-series on Jack Daniels. So there's a lot of people that are crazy for Jack Daniels and really want to investigate the nuances in all their different various whiskeys. Now, I'm not talking about like collector's editions and that sort of thing, but I'm talking about, and I'll run through the line. I've already done Jack Daniels Black Label. It was one of the first reviews that I did, but I'm talking about Green Label Jack Daniels, then Gentleman Jack, Single Barrel, then you might be able to see it up there, but we've got Jack Daniels is experimenting with the rye, so there's the unaged rye, and then rested rye. So there's those, and I mentioned I might even throw in Jack Daniels Tennessee Honey and Tennessee Fire, whiskeys which have been mixed in with some flavored whiskeys, liqueurs. I normally don't do those, because at that point it's not totally about the whiskey, it's about whatever other flavorings they've added. But I'll do that just because I have them, and that'll be like, instead of doing a whiskey review every week, like the main ones would be, but I would do like a little sub review during the week of like Tennessee Fire or Tennessee Honey, that sort of thing. So let me know, comment below if you think that's a good idea. I'll do it. I know we just got off the long mini-series off of Tullamore Dew, Irish whiskeys, so I'm thinking about a month's time from now, let us get back into the groove a little bit of going around from American whiskeys and bourbon to Irish whiskey, to Scotch whiskey, and then to a world whiskey like this gem, Diamond in the Rough, that we found for this week. But I'm glad I did, because I was tempted to just, go with another Canadian whiskey, which would have been fine, but, to find something like this is great, especially when there aren't a lot of reviews out there. So that's about it. Straight Talk Whiskey, episode number 12. I'm Nick. Drink responsibly, have a good week, and we'll see you next time.